Amazon done good. Amazon pushing our portfolios along today, Steve.
Yeah, definitely. It's had a pretty decent looking earnings report. I think people were very worried about Amazon because they were expecting its marketing to struggle. They were expecting its retail arm to struggle, especially with Prime Day not being in these figures. We know Prime Day was good, but we know that that's actually in the previous month. And it just delivered. I mean, revenues grew at 10% in constant currency, at 7% when you adjust it down year on year, which is really good when you consider the size of Amazon's company and how much it grew last year. This was a 2% beat on consensus. Sales grew and beat in America, declined a little bit in EU. Some of this is currency, some of this is pockets being squeezed. AWS was a monster, brought in 20 billion of sales just in the quarter. That gives it an 80 billion run rate, up 33% year on year. It's still a $1 trillion business if they spin that out. They beat consensus on gross profit, gross margin, operating income, operating margin. So, to me, that's a decent quarter, Steve.
Yeah, it features another bit of Rivian write-down stuff for the stock that they own. Again, there was more of this last quarter, and there's a little bit more this time around. They're not the same business at all, but this is similar to the Teladoc thing, just in terms of investments that have, at least in terms of the balance sheet, gone bad in a certain way. So there was that to keep your eye on, and it sort of makes the EPS number look lower. And I like Amazon because I think it trades on a sort of funny PE ratio. It's now trading on something like 48 times next year's or something like that. And it's very difficult to buy a stock that's just gone up 12% at the best of times, right? Just psychologically. It's even more difficult, I think, which has, I think, been the case for both of us, to buy a stock that's gone up 12% and you've gone from red to green on it. In the course of it making that move. And yet I still sort of think, if I didn't own the stock, I might be buying it at these levels.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because I'm essentially back to zero, which means this is the price I bought it at, and I'm sat looking at it thinking, maybe it'll get cheaper. I bought £6,000 worth of Amazon shares, and now I'm like 1% up. I'm thinking, oh, better sit on this one for a while. Yeah, it's a strange. The mentality of investing is completely like you have to almost constantly punch yourself in the head. So I pulled out a couple of extra things, Steve. I didn't know whether you saw. We got 2% dilution year over year, an extra 200 million shares in the bank.
Yep.
I saw that shipping costs, quite interestingly, now for if you strip out AWS, it's now nearly 20% of the revenue, which is quite a lot for shipping costs. It was only 8.7% back in 2012, so yeah, that's gone up a lot. But I tend to think if we could strip out the fuel, or we could strip the fuel back down to the prices that it was, I wonder if we've hit the top. It would be particularly interesting to see. Yeah, I've got the notes on Rivian too that you had, Steve. I think 3.9 billion write down on equity. Nobody cares about that. The guidance was good, Steve. 125 billion to 130 billion. I reckon they know a lot of that is already in from Prime Day. That indicates growth of about 13% to sort of 17% year over year in my calculations, and that included that they're anticipating more unfavourable effects as well. Operating income was expected to be between 0 and 3.5 billion, which is like the widest range I've ever seen. And yeah, it looked pretty good. I pulled a couple of things out of the they do a highlights page on the earnings statement. I pulled out essentially four things that I was quite interesting. So Prime members worldwide shopped more and saved more this Prime Day than any other Prime Day event, purchasing over 300 million items and saving more than 1.7 billion. So they were purchasing, apparently we were purchasing 100,000 items a minute, and the best selling categories were Amazon devices, their own devices, consumer electronics, home, and Amazon devices itself had a record-breaking Prime Day, selling more devices than any other Prime Day. They announced that in California they now have a license to do Prime Air. They're going to do drone deliveries essentially. You have an option to receive a free and fast drone delivery on thousands of items, and the largest selection of items ever will be available on the drone delivery. Some interesting stuff on their walkout technology, Steve. I don't know if you've ever come across this. You go into the store, you put the palm of your hand over the thing, and then you can pick up all the items that you want to pick up, and you can walk out of the store, and it charges you on the way out. They're open now. There's a walk. Sorry, they've opened stores at the T-Mobile Park in Seattle, the Hudson Non-Stop Store in Nashville International Airport, and they're opening 3 new stores in Texas A&M Kyle Field Airport this year. Looks pretty interesting. 12 more Amazon Fresh stores open. So there was a huge list of highlights from Prime Day and from AWS, but I would encourage you to go and check them out if you're interested.
Yeah, brick and mortar retail did pretty well for them, actually. Their kind of physical stores, which is not what you associate Amazon with at all. But the e-commerce stuff is always interesting to me. You mentioned the kind of air delivery thing, and that to me is really quite important, actually. So I've always said I think of Amazon as kind of like a Costco, right? So margins are going to be very low. And we know margins are low on Amazon's retail thing, but they're low at Costco too. They're basically non-existent at Costco. Costco makes money by having people just give them their money so they can go and shop there. And Amazon attempts to do the same thing with Prime, I guess. But if you're going to be able to do that, you need some sort of hook that is going to make people pay you just for the purpose of buying it from you, for the privilege, of buying it from you. And in Costco, it's going to be, it's cheaper than anywhere else. Don't even bother looking around. We're selling it to you cheaper than they are. Just give us your money and come buy it. In Amazon's case, I think it has to be, we're going to get it to you faster than anybody else can. And AirDrop being first onto AirDrop or something like that, or first on walkout technology, so on and so forth. That's going to be the kind of thing that is going to make people effectively just give them their money for nothing in terms of just a Prime membership to have that kind of convenience there. Yeah. So I think if this was spun out, we feel slightly differently about it. I would keep the retail thing. I kind of like it like that as a sort of Costco-y thing. It's on a big multiple, probably. I haven't actually worked it out, but so is Costco. You kind of much prefer the AWS stuff and would probably recycle the e-commerce stuff into the web services business?
Potentially, but I have started to see quite a bit of value in the marketing arm of Amazon, so I would be intrigued to see where that part of the business ends up. But I think they're all within themselves. There's merits to all parts of the business, but AWS is the jewel in the crown for me.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. That's the kind of flywheel that every really, really successful, massive business has.